universe of startups, vision is just the beginning. Our startup leaders share the lessons that build the future. Join the conversation.
Hey, I'm Vicky, and welcome back to the Just Be Better podcast and our Startup Leaders Talk segment, where we dive into the minds of the founders and execs shaping the startup ecosystem. If you're just listening and would rather see our faces, head over to our YouTube channel, Just Be Better. Tune in, join the conversation, and help support our guests by making them feel seen and heard. Today, I'm joined by Farah, a leader with over 15 years of experience scaling startups while embedding sustainability at the heart of operations. Farah, so good to have you here today. Could you start by briefly introducing yourself to our audience, please?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Vicky, for having me today. So I'm a fractional Chief Operating Officer and Chief Sustainability Officer. I mainly work for consumer goods and climate tech startups. And I started my journey almost 15 years ago in travel retail, then moved to lifestyle, beauty, fashion, and now a bit, but most of my clients are within, I would say, lifestyle, fitness, and climate tech.
That sounds very interesting, and I feel like in 15 years you got to do a lot of different things and be in a lot of different industries. When you think at the very, very early of your career, what was your very first paid job, and how did that shape your perspective on work in general, do you think?
Yes, absolutely. That's such a good question. My first ever paid job, you know what? I think it was McDonald's. I worked at McDonald's very early on, whilst being at school, studying, and a lot of people have and had to work during their studies because you have to finance your studies and universities. And me personally, it really shaped my work values. I'm a hard worker, and I believe that, and also I would want to tie this to sport. I've been training and I've been into sport most of my life, and I think it really shows that how much input you will add, you'll get the output. What I mean is, if you work hard, you'll probably get, good reward. And I think this really, what I call student jobs that are, really hard because it's not as rewarding and it's the same task over and over. If you remember why you're doing it and what's the purpose, it also helps to shape your mind and resilience, really.
I spoke with a couple of people on my podcast on a different segment, but most people in sales always say that when you're looking for a sales professional, look for people not with the very impressive universities, but look for people who've done team sport during high school years or school years, because they will show that actual resilience that it takes to be in sales in general.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And I think, degrees and technical skill set are really important, but something that is equally important is the soft skills and the emotional intelligence side, which you can really understand through people's background, experience, and hardship as well. So I couldn't agree more. It's really about how you behave and your mindset. It's a mindset, it's a spirit. How do you decide to live your life or work? What's your goal and what's the attitude you want to have? And we all had really annoying teams or not the best manager, but I guess if you decide to come and be the best version of yourself, you may want to decide not to do it for this shitty boss or shitty teams, but just for yourself, because you're here. This is where you are at this moment, and it doesn't mean you have to be there forever. You can do whatever work it takes to move and to change career or to change team or environment. But whilst you're here, just show up. Just show up, not for others, but for you.
No matter how much you try, at least once in your career, you will face the people that you don't necessarily like working with. But if you have that grit and resilience and you are working towards your goal, it's going to be much more enjoyable for yourself, because at least you know what you're doing this for. But always, if it's too bad, as all I say to people, don't suffer, just go for another job.
Yes, absolutely. We are not trees. We can move, we can change. It's not comfortable, but this is what you have to do.
And when you look at your early career, Farah, you started at a large organization from what I remember. What inspired you transition into a startup ecosystem?
Yes, that's such a good question. One of my first internships was at L'Oréal in Paris in the finance department. And it was a very interesting experience. I definitely don't regret it because it helped me to really understand and build resilience, because L'Oréal is a company where you really need to work hard, especially when you're in finance. But something that I've realized very early on is, and this is why I transitioned to startups, is one of my strengths is to get stuff done, and I love this rhythm and this cadence and moving at a certain pace, which obviously incorporates, and at a very junior level it will be much harder to get into that rhythm and that pace, and the decision making process is a bit more slow because you have more stakeholders involved, rightfully. And so moving to the startup scenes really helped me to see how much impact I can have within an organization from a very, very early stage. And the impact you have as an individual in a startup of, 10, 20, 50 people is so rewarding. And what it means is not only the hard work or the mistakes you know that everyone make will be seen, but what it also means is that you can correct them right away. So I guess the impact, and the second point is, I touched a bit on it, is the rhythm and being able to have this context switches and moving at a certain pace is what really keep me alive. I'm very dynamic. I can get bored quite easily. I'm not someone that is, sit still and relax. I wish I could be a bit more like this. But the startup energy is what really drives me.
I think that energy is what makes people either stick with startups or run as far away from startups.
You know what? Startups is not for everyone. And it's fine, in the same way that we are all different, and you may be with a partner that someone else couldn't be with, because we all have different personality traits. We all look for different things, and it's the same with the work environment and the startup scene. It depends on people's motivations. It depends on people's personalities, goals, and aspiration, I guess. I don't think I can work in a corporate environment. I don't think I would be a strong employee in a very big corporate organization. Working in a startup environment means that you need to be comfortable with the lack of clarity. Sometimes you need to be comfortable changing the goalpost. You need to be comfortable navigating those ambiguities. You need to be able to work at a certain pace whilst being a strong communicator. And it also means that sometimes you need to break a bit the rules, which obviously are a little bit harder in a bigger organization. I'm looking outside. I'm in Canary Wharf, and I'm looking, at HSBC, KPMG. Obviously, those are regulated companies, but it's a complete different playground than if you work for a consumer goods or social impact startup.
And you mentioned that you started your internship at L'Oréal as in finance department. How did you transition to sustainability?
Yes, that's a good question, and a lot of opportunities. So I started in finance. I did a bit of sales as well, and then when I arrived in London, I basically had a general management role. I started in travel retail at Be Relax as a head of UK, and then quickly got promoted as a chief operating officer for the entire region. So I was in charge of scaling the business in the region. And naturally, after that, my experience were CEO or head of brand or head of market. And then in the last 7 or 8 years, I've been working first as a CEO within social impact startups. And then naturally took on the sustainability departments, or when I worked in an ESG consulting startup, I was managing the bigger accounts, looking at setting up the sustainability strategies and helping them going through that journey. And gradually, I moved from operations to sustainability, which is having an operational background is very helpful in sustainability. I always say you have three types of sustainability experts. You have the one that are highly technical, science-based, and and experts in their own field, such as plastic or carbon. Then you have the sustainability professional with a communication and marketing background, and that really good at showcasing and explaining what sustainability are. And the third one, the third category, which I fit in, is the sustainability with commercial and business acumen. So it's more overarching and top line expertise where, okay, how do I embed sustainability into the business core operations? How do I make a profit? Because sustainability is not only, a non-profit or charity, but how do I actually embed sustainability in a for-profit business, which at the end of the day has to make money? So this has been the transition.
And for those less familiar, I think sustainability is still an elephant in a room in a lot of organizations. Could you briefly explain how businesses and you personally drive that sustainability?
Yes, absolutely. I think the reason why sustainability is, as you said, the elephant in the room is because it's such a big concept with so many layers and work streams. So the first thing to understand is, as a business, which area of sustainability are you operating? Either, and often it's driven by your business model. If you take a company like Lego, they would want to operate within this plastic environment because of the nature of their business, right? Saying that most businesses, especially consumer goods, would want to also look at the carbon emission because it's the biggest negative impact on the planet. But to answer your question, it's really to understand, okay, where are we at? What's the business model? Where is the biggest impact that we're having based on the nature of our business? If it's environmental, if it's people, and from that understanding, okay, my sustainability strategy will be based on my sustainability pillars. And it can be, as I said, carbon. It can be about traceability in supply chain. If you are a consumer goods business, it can be, ocean plastic. It can be, there's so many. You have to understand where the business sits and the biggest impact. Once you have your sustainability pillars, you have to break it down with a roadmap so it's not too overwhelming. And so per your sustainability pillars, you want to have KPIs and objectives and goals. But in order to have KPIs and goals, you need to understand where you operate. Typically, if you want to reduce a Scope 3 emission, the first thing to do is to understand where you're at, and so to track it properly, and then setting up target to understand, okay, how am I going to decrease my Scope 3 emissions? Or if you are typically in the jewelry industry, you want to understand the impact of your mining and diamond extractions. Okay, so there is a lot of research, benchmark, data collection to take place, and then you decide how this takes place. So I think it's really having a process, organized way to break down your strategy and understand, okay, how I'm going to do this through a certain timeline so it's not too overwhelming. And it's the same with the marathon. You're not going to tell yourself, okay, I'm signing up to London Marathon that is happening on Sunday, and then just show up. No, this will be probably, I don't want to say impossible, but it would be very difficult and probably risky in terms of injuries. What you want to do is have a plan and start, 16, 20 weeks ago. Okay, today I'm not going to run a marathon. I'm going to run 10K. And then the following week, I'm going to run 15K. And so you have your plan, so you understand where you're going.
This is so interesting. Thanks for such a detailed explanation. When you look at the sustainability in general, what do you think is one common misconception people have about what you do?
About what I do? That's a very good question. You mean within the organization from a business perspective?
Either that or just in general, what sustainability do, what people think when you say, oh, I advise companies on sustainability and I help them. And what do you think people think when you say that?
Yes, I think Well, first of all, people always react very positively about this, and I guess it depends on the audience. If you discuss with other sustainability experts, obviously they will understand it, and I'm not sure they would want to have more details because, as I said, sustainability is such a vast concept that I wouldn't be the right person typically to be that plastic expert and understand all the different materiality, etc. So I guess and then if you talk to an audience that is not very much into sustainability, they're often very kind because they understand that you're trying to help the planet and people. But in terms of misconception, I think what's very important to often people may think that I would work maybe with companies on project in silos. In siloed. Oh, how, for example, can we introduce recycled paper? Or how can we have less impact with this product, reducing the weight of it? I'm bringing some simple examples, but I guess the biggest, what's very important to understand, and this is what I do, is how do you bring sustainability at the core of the business operations or the business model? So as the business scale, your impact scale as well. And this is not me saying that companies that think about introducing recycled paper is not a great first step, but it's definitely not enough. And it's one tactic, one project where you want to look at this again at a holistic level, because the environment in which we are is, you want to make profit, you have stakeholders, you have investors, and it's how do I keep making money in the world that we are in today, whilst either having the least negative impact on people and planet, or having a positive one, because some companies, as they scale, they would have a positive impact, because typically Ocean Bottle company that I work for each bottle sold, they will fund a collection of ocean-bound plastic, meaning that as they scale, as the business scale and sales increase, their positive impact on ocean-bound plastic will also increase. Going back to your question very specifically, it goes back, in my opinion, to tactic, project-based versus holistic and long-term impact.
If you were to give one practical sustainability tip or action that startups often overlook but can easily implement, what would that be?
Yes, that is a very good question. I would challenge, what does easily implement to mean? I think, again, for consumer goods businesses, it might not be so true for services. It depends in which sector. But I think starting to understand and track your Scope 3 emission is very important. And less than 10% of companies globally track their Scope 3 emissions, which actually is when you know that most of your total emission, 95% of total emissions fall within your Scope 3. It is absolutely key in order to move forward. And when I say, Scope 3, and it can sound very overwhelming, but now you have so many carbon accounting software that are available to businesses. You set it up, you plug in, you have all of your invoices that goes through it, and then the software will do the work for you. And this is a first step. So it's easy to implement. Now you need to be intentional about it. You need to have someone internally that would dedicate a bit of time, set up the system, and be the main point of contact. And from this, you already understand, okay, what's my total carbon emission for the year? Where can I find opportunities to decrease this? And to take it further, how would I work with my suppliers to reduce our emissions? So I think this would be a very, very great first step. And then if people feel overwhelmed about this specific step, then something a little bit more general would be to have a sort of gap analysis. Okay, I want to start with sustainability. Let me look at what I can do. But if you're in an office and you think that recycling is, what will give you credential in your sustainability journey, it's not. And big challenges require resources and time and thinking and intentional actions as well.
And looking ahead, what's a sustainability trend you're excited about and one you think we should be cautious or skeptical about?
Yeah, so there is, in terms of trends at the moment, there is a lot of demand and a lot of requests for reporting and compliance, especially because of the EU regulation that is coming into place next year. So I don't know if this excites me per se, but I think it's a good first step in regards to making all companies accountable and not the ones that are voluntary making that sort of reporting. And it will really, and it's hard, and you know, companies are sharing their challenges in regards to resources and lack of understanding. It's normal. It's normal. Nobody knows perfectly how to go there, and we have to go there together. The second one, which I think is a little bit more exciting, is all the innovation and R&D that is made in the fashion industry with innovative materials such as mushroom leather or lab-grown cotton. And I'm not saying that all of those innovations don't have negative impact. Some do. Typically, you know, at this stage, it's better to use regenerative cotton than lab-grown cotton. However, the energy and the work, innovation, and resources, finances behind is great. It's exciting because it's all about the journey, test and learn. And we may not get it right the first time, but all of those, and there's so many startups in the UK that is doing incredible work on innovative materials. And this is what's very exciting, because sustainability doesn't have to be boring. It can be super exciting. And I know that people within NPD or so innovation research, they're very excited by this. So this is very positive, and I'm sure there will be, you know, great results coming out of this, you know, through innovative materials such as seaweed in terms of packaging, or it's exciting and it's fun.
Moving a little bit away from sustainability in general onto fractional leadership. So, I can't speak anymore. Fractional leadership roles like yours are becoming increasingly popular nowadays. What do you think is driving this shift, and why did you personally chose this path for yourself?
Yes, absolutely. So I think since COVID, obviously a lot has changes, especially in the workspace, you know, remote work, flexibility. And I think companies and people got comfortable with this flexibility aspect. And you know, fractional C-suite, fractional experts for companies are great because it's flexible, meaning that you can scale up and down as you need. It's risk-free because you can scale down if you have, you know, founding issues. And it's very efficient in the sense that often fractional C-suite comes with their own playbook, meaning that you're able to have a positive impact and get stuff done very, very quickly. You also don't get caught up into office politics, meaning that you can move faster and at a certain pace. Within a few weeks, within a few months, often fractional people can deliver. And the rest of the question, why did I choose this
Why
personally?
did you choose yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think for similar reasons. So actually, maybe two or three reasons. The first one is I touched a bit on this earlier, but I love context switching. I love being sucked into different environments, and this really helps me to keep me engaged. So working with two or three clients at the same time is something that really creates dynamism. Is that the right word to say? So it really keeps me
I'm
alive.
not native English speaker, so we're going with this.
We're going for it. It keeps me alive. The second aspect is flexibility, and I think it's important for everyone to understand what's their own values and really go for what matches your values. And one of my values is freedom. I live in London, but I travel a lot, especially to surf. And for me, being able to go for a month or two in different places in order to surf is very important for me. And so being this fractional expert or fractional being in a fractional role gives me that flexibility and helps me to match my personal aspiration with professional goals. And I guess the third aspect is I've mentioned this a bit, but because you can have an impact very quickly, it's very rewarding personally. When I start a new project, or if I'm engaged for a specific task, within 3-6 months, the work is done, and it's very rewarding. People really appreciate your output. People really love what you brought to the table, without the negative and the challenges aspect of a full-time office role, which we all know what it is, the office gossips and the politics, which I no longer really have to deal with, and this is great.
And before we move to a second part, what's a piece of advice would you give to someone just starting out in startups as fractional?
Ooh, that's a very good question. So fractional within startup. The piece of advice will be to understand understanding what are you offering, what are you delivering on, and often where you're good at. So basically, what's your offering, and be very specific with it. As I said on the sustainability part, for example, I've had founders or investors coming out to me asking me, we have this specific challenge on carbon offsetting, which method should we use? I'm not this person. I can't, I could if I was spending time, but you can find someone that would have a way better knowledge, that would be way faster. However, on the other hand, if brands are looking, or companies are looking for someone to help them embed sustainability across the whole business, yes, I'm your person. So it's really, as a fractional person, what's your position, what's your offering, what's your USP, and stick with this.
Perfect. And as I mentioned to you, Farah, the second part of the interview is a speedy startup, where I have about, I think, 80, 90 questions. I'm not going to ask for elaborate answers. It has to be yes or no. Can be a little bit more elaborate, but I'm not going to follow up, which is probably the hardest part for me, to shove it up when I need to.
Yeah.
So are you ready for this?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. So the very first question is, what's the worst interview question you ever heard? It can be someone ask you, you ask someone, or you just heard in general.
If you were an animal, which one would it be? I kind of understand, but come on.
It's remote, hybrid, or office?
Remote for me.
What's your productivity hack or tool?
Very simple. Blocking time. If I need to get stuff done, I'll have in my calendar my meetings, but also the work I need to do. And a task that would be quite difficult, I would use the Pomodoro technique, where you put like 20 minutes on a timer. You switch everything off, your emails, your Slack, your WhatsApp, and you just focus on this task for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You would think 20 minutes is not a lot, but if you only do this for 20 minutes, you'll get great progress.
You are early bird or a night owl?
Oh, I would say I used to be a night owl, but now I'm definitely becoming an early bird.
If not your current role, what would you be doing instead, do you think?
I would be a PT. I would be a personal trainer. As I said earlier, sports been very present in my life since I'm 5. And it's so important for me, not only physically, but also mentally, and also from a values perspective. So I think I will be a personal trainer.
And what's a popular sustainability practice you think is mostly performative rather than impactful?
That's a hard one. And I think I wouldn't want to answer that from an individual or consumer point of view, because I think the shame is a lot on consumers, where everyone is trying their best. I don't think there is anyone on this planet saying, let me choose this option that is actually negatively impacting the planet. But I would want to go more towards businesses. And I think it will be, a company choosing one aspect of sustainability. Oh, I use recycled paper, therefore I'm sustainable. Well, you might not be. So I think it's everything that goes with greenwashing. companies that intentionally would claim themselves as sustainable when actually they might just use recycled paper in the printer in the office, when they are, mining and air freighting and not respecting human rights in their supply chain.
What's one word your team or teams that you work with in general would use to describe you?
I'm a doer. I got a couple of words for getting stuff done. So if it was one word, I would say doer.
What's the most overrated buzzword in business right now, you think?
Do I dare say AI? No, let's not say AI.
I was expecting to hear AI, I'm not gonna lie.
Listen, it's there. It's obviously we're getting at this stage where there is a shift in our world and in our society, especially at work. And it would be naive not to accept this and not to understand that this will shift how we work. But, saying AI 3 times per meeting might be a bit too much.
I know exactly how you feel. But moving on, do you think sustainability ever truly compatible with rapid startup growth, or will one always compromise the other?
So that is a very good question. And well, first of all, from the moment we exist, we produce, we have an impact on the planet, either we like it or not. From the moment we scale, the impact will increase. Now, the capitalism world we are in is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So now is understanding, okay, what is the best alternative in the market amongst our competitors? And the idea is, and some companies do it very well, if you have sustainability, again, embedded within your business model, then as you scale, your positive impact will also scale, and I'm thinking about climate tech companies, or I'm thinking about if your business model is to scout and benchmark and monitor nature biodiversity lens through satellites. As you scale, great, your positive impact will also scale and support other businesses. So I guess it's always being intentional and understanding the choices that we make. Sustainability is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about, progress. Progress over perfection is what I meant to say. And this is the truth for the truth for everything we do in life, right? If you take the body, we're not, you can have this chocolate, you can have this fries or this burger, but I guess is what is it that you're doing on a day-to-day basis to balance this out? Do you work out most of the time? Do you run, or do you walk most of the time? Do you eat healthy most of the time? When I say healthy, I'm talking about, non-processed foods, or do you have, all of your colors in your plate? And if all of this is happening, it's not this 1 or 2 burgers that will, create a big difference. And I guess it's the same with sustainability. I think we are here today because of the excessive way of doing things, of buying and consuming. So it's going back to this business model and understanding, okay, what alternatives can I offer to the world or consumers or employees?
What's your biggest work pet peeve?
Unprepared meetings. It's a trigger for me. I need to get into a meeting to understand what are we doing, what's the goal, do we have an agenda, next actions. Okay, don't get me wrong. If I'm joining a meeting with my creative peeps, no problem. And if it's about, brainstorming, and great. Most of meetings are not about brainstorming, and this is a trigger. I need to be in meetings where we know what we want to tackle and discuss about.
Most underrated skill in business?
Communication. I think communication, especially obviously the how to communicate with empathy and, is very, very, and calm is very important. But the what do you communicate to who is so underrated, and could save so much time and frustration within an organization.
What role will disappear first because of AI? Talking about AI.
Ooh, that is a good one. I don't know if roles will disappear. Obviously, I know that most people now use ChatGPT for copywriting. This is not to say that copywriter roles will disappear, but I think it will shift it will have a sudden shift. And ChatGPT is not the best. When someone is sending you an email with ChatGPT, you can see it, and it lacks authenticity. And you want sometimes just mistakes, because this is what makes us human. So I guess there will be a shift in regards to how this role will become.
Finish the sentence. Startups are
Messy and rewarding.
What's one mistake you think all first-time founders make?
I think one of the biggest mistakes is to overhire. Usually after the first, Series A or big fundraising, they would want to hire a lot of people, which I've seen in the past being a mistake, because a few years after you have to go through redundancy rounds. And it's not to say that there might be some needs and we're exciting, but I think you need to be a bit more when I say intentional, is you really need to prioritize understanding, okay, how do I want to go with my next hiring? And I always mention the 70-20-10 rule. 70% of your resources need to be into what makes money to the business, your biggest revenue stream. 20%, okay, test and learn. 10% moonshots. But you're not going to hire a team of 10 engineers for your moonshots. You would probably want to get freelancers. So if it doesn't work, it will be unfortunately easy to move on.
That's one of the topics that I'm really struggling not to comment. So we'll try to move on. When it goes to startups, what's one thing about the startup ecosystem you think most people don't understand?
The lack of structure, policies, and organization don't have to stay there forever. And I see that often with hardcore starter lovers. They love it, and they would think that the lack of organization, processes, and policies has to stay there forever. And I think this is wrong, especially if you want to move your business from a point A to a point B. It's not to say that you have to have the level of policies as HSBC, but you need to start put in place certain foundations, not to slow things down, but it's quite the opposite. If you start to create automation and processes, then people can focus on what actually deliver value to the business, and not trying to think, oh my God, how should I request my holiday? Or is it Mary or is it Mohammed that I need to request? No. If you have a system, you do it, and then all of this mental thinking and time can be focused on what delivers value to the business.
And my next question has been posed to you by my previous guest, Oakley Walters. If you reflect on your career to date, how much on a scale of 1 to 100, with 100 being completely and 1 being not at all, how much would you say that luck has played a part in where you ended up?
Wow, I love this question. This is great. Wow. Okay. I would say a good 70 or 80%, mainly because I like to think that talent and hard work also pays off. But 78% luck is the luck that I think about when you're healthy and you're able to live in a city like London, where you have time to network. And I think it's the luck that is related to being privileged in that sense, and having the choice and opportunity to choose, where so many people don't have this opportunity to choose what they want to do, because they have to provide for the family, right? So that is such a profound question. I like this.
Perfect. I will pass the compliments for the question to Oakley himself. I'm actually speaking with him in about 20 minutes.
Oh, I love this. Awesome. Great.
And then for the last one, could you pose a question to the next guest?
Yes, absolutely. What advice they would give to their younger self, especially coming out of any studies, if it was uni or not, to that younger self, probably not knowing what they will be doing in 10 or 20 years. One piece of advice for the younger self.
Love this question. And before we finish, Farah, is there anything you would like to say? How people can find you? Anything to add at all?
Yes. Oh, I like this question too. Thank you so much, Vicky. So people can find me on LinkedIn. I always like connecting with people. If they need sustainability or operational support, I'm here. But also, if people want to talk about surfing or running or training, I'm also here. Just love meeting, like-minded people like yourself. It's always very refreshing and helps you to get out of the day-to-day and the routine. So thank you so much.
Thank you for being here today. It was absolute pleasure, and I really hope to have you again.
Yes, thank you so much, Vicky. Have a lovely day.
A massive thank you to everyone who tuned in into this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you really loved it and would love to support the podcast, you can buy me a coffee via the link in the description. It was great having you back, and until the next time, try to be just a little bit better.
Thanks for being part of these journeys. Keep leading, keep building. See you next time. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your insights.